Are the emojis working?
Oh,
No,
dude, I gotta
I
turn
turned
those
them off.
off if they're not
Turned them
already up.
off.
Yeah, mine are off.
Reactions.
Jeez. And what's stupid is it's like an application setting. Like you have to change it for every application.
Ah, yes. Okay, all right,
Yeah,
they're
there you
working
go.
now.
Shoot, we already got stuff in the chat. Sorry. Um,
Chatting it up.
yeah, we got stuff in the chat already. Oh, they're talking about letting const. Never mind. Dreamix do enough beyond typical React router setup? Oh, just like some general questions and stuff. All right. All right, let's do this. I don't know how long we're gonna be going today. I'm just gonna come right out and say the thing, Michael. If anyone is paying any attention at all to our commits on React Router, you'll see that the time has come that we're bringing more stuff from Remix over to React Router, which is something that we've been doing the whole time. This time it's the Vite plugin. Um, since we've developed the Vite plugin, the lines between all of our code, all the things that make Remix Remix, are getting more clear. And Vite really made a nice box around another chunk of what Remix is. And so Remix is React Router. It's a Vite plugin that creates server and client bundles. And then it's some server runtimes to run those bundles on the server, and then a client runtime to run it in the client. Um, and most of that stuff lives in React Router. And then there's just a few little things inside a Remix at the runtime that know how to pick up the server bundles and run them, and the adapters, or to just run things as a SPA. So with these nice clear lines, we've been moving stuff over to React Router as much as we possibly can, which is probably everything. um, so if you've been paying attention to our commits, you already know that that's what's going on. So in this live stream and a couple of the things we talk about, we're probably going to be talking mostly just about everything in the context of React Router. If you're freaked out by that, or you're like, wait, what does this mean? We're speaking about that at ReactConf next week. So just like chill, everything will be fine. And should be a fun talk. That's pretty insightful. Got
Yeah, I mean
anything to add to that?
somebody in the chat already said V7.
Yeah,
So yeah, they know it's coming. Um,
yeah. Um,
so
uh, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just saying it's just to kind of echo what you said earlier. It's just more of the same of the stuff, more of the same stuff that we've been doing this whole time, right? We've been saying since the beginning that, Remix is like an enhanced version of React Router, right? It's a compiler for React Router and a server runtime for React Router. It's got a new name, but essentially it's always just been React Router at the core. So bringing a lot of the Remix stuff back into React Router, I think makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and after a couple of years of doing it, we've found where those lines are and realized, oh, it's kind of just all the same thing now.
Totally.
Um,
Especially with the move recently that we made to using Vite as our compiler, right? That I feel like makes it such a natural thing because if you look at, I mean, going years back, if you look at a lot of the example apps and the demo apps that we had in the React Router repository, they were using Vite. I mean, like two
yeah,
years back, like the V6, some of the original V6 demos that I did were just using Vite and React Router.
yeah,
And so it's been a pairing that we've used before. I think when ES Build came along, it was kind of like, ooh, this thing is so cool, it's so much faster, or whatever. Um, and there are reasons to use ES Build. There are reasons why we switched to using Vite. I think that mostly have to do with community and support and that kind of thing, which are really important reasons. But it's been something that we've used for a long time. Anyway, with the switch back to Vite, I think that takes a lot of stuff off of our plate, right? We don't have to do so much of the compiler work ourselves. Whereas that was, golly, I remember there was a time when basically we would get together with an all hands meeting, on the Remix team, and the whole meeting would be like talking about the compiler.
yeah.
It
The
was
whole
just
time.
like it seemed like every conversation was talking about like, okay, do we have support for Tailwind, and do we have support for CSS modules, and do we have support for all of these other different things in in the front end ecosystem, these tools, and it all came down to, does our compiler support it or not?
Yeah.
So anyway, the move to Vite allows us to just sort of offload a lot of those conversations to the broader community and frees up and yeah, and frees us up to say, well, we're not really developing our own compiler anymore, so um, that it's just a Vite plugin now. And so anyway, the transition to adopting a lot of this stuff in React Router proper, I think becomes a little bit easier with that move.
Yeah. And I'd add one of my favorite things about switching over to V was again all this conversation about the compiler and stuff. It's like we're trying our goal, our drive is building bridges for um, primarily the dozens of React Router apps and React apps here in Shopify, but also the millions of them externally. How do we move them along forward? And if they've all got Babel plugin macros and some other JSX transform for CSS and all this stuff, it's like we just there was no bridge with our own compiler. But now with
Yeah.
Vite, we've got that bridge for people.
And yeah,
Um,
it's just quick shout out to Vite, by the way. Like those people have been awesome. The developers working on it ever since we adopted it. Um, they've just been like super great to work with, and the project has just been a pleasure to use. And our own team has loved using it, and like can't say enough good things about Vite. So if you're in front end world and you haven't checked it out yet, maybe, go kick the tires. It's a pretty cool project. And shout out to Evan and the whole team for the work that they're doing on that. Shopify is actually sponsoring the Vite project now. We're
oh,
we're
cool,
paying like $500 a month to sponsor Vite. So
cool. Somebody in the chat said that my audio quality is slightly funky. Is it better now?
sounds
Did you
fine to
notice it
me.
was funky? It was fine.
It sounds okay to me. I haven't heard
Okay.
anything.
I just turned down my input volume a little bit.
Ha! Somebody in the chat called you Mr. RSC. Ryan something
No, nobody
Lawrence.
knows if I love it or hate it.
You're RSF.
I was actually talking to someone at Facebook on the React team, and they were like, he's like, I actually really love how you're just this like this neutral third party on everything React.
Yeah, it's useful to have that perspective, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you look at Next and like they're highly incentivized to um or sorry, yeah, anyway, the next meta relationship is well, it is what it is. Like we all know what it is, and we can see kind of the incentives there, I think. Um, a lot of the React core contributors work at Vercel, and that's not a bad thing. It's a great thing actually for React. But the incentives are to um yeah, to compete with Remix to sell Vercel hosting. Those are the incentives. And we're really not motivated to sell hosting at all. And so, when we can take kind of an objective look at React and just tell you like, here's what we think about it. Is it, you know, without worrying about, whether or not we're designing the features of
Mike,
React. Well, because we're not actually, we're not designing any of the features of
hey
React. We're
Michael,
just
my
kind of giving
wife's
feedback
calling me, and I told you
about it.
about
Yeah,
what was
yeah,
going
yeah,
on, so
yeah.
I'm gonna take this. I'll be right back. Sorry.
I'll just keep rambling. So yeah, so anyway, like I was saying, the incentives I think are aligned to for us to just sort of sit back and be a nice objective third party, and we can just come in and say, yeah, we like this and here's why, or we don't like this and here's why. So we don't have to pretend like, we're anything other than that. All right, so Ryan is dealing with a family situation today, so I'm gonna try and run.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh,
Um,
oh, okay.
and the microphone issue should be fixed. It was the stupid Mac OS setting doing voice isolation, and it like messes up my setup. So anyway,
Oh, okay.
um,
I was just gonna proceed with
I can I can share my screen
oh,
and
okay.
go. All right, I'm gonna move videos over here. Okay, so last time we covered all this stuff that we shipped, some things that are in progress. Um, this is almost done. Jacob has showed me a little demo of it. So it's gonna be awesome. Remix package. This actually is now the React Router package. So we've talked about this in the past where finding all the stuff from server runtime that like would be shared. So you're bringing in loader function, not from Node and Cloudflare, but just from Remix and other things like that. But now it all just comes from React Router. It's actually feeling awesome building the little demo apps for my talk next week. And it's like you just import from React Router, literally everything. It makes so much sense. Um, we got the PM workspaces happening.
Also, just a little footnote there. Um, yeah, we've been talking about React Router v7 and simplifying sort of the package structure. Um, for anybody, this is such a niche, but anybody who's developing React Router native apps, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that out there, just because there might be a few people watching the stream who are like doing that or interested in that. Not that it's not, and it's not that it's like I don't believe in React Native. It's not that at all, or that Ryan doesn't. It's just not a priority for us right now.
Yeah, and it hasn't gained a bunch of adoption because we haven't given it attention. We're
Yeah,
web
there's
guys.
yeah,
We don't.
yeah. React Router Native has not gained adoption because we haven't given it a ton of attention. So we're just dropping it. There's React Navigation if you want to uh
Expo
do
router also.
do React Router. Yeah, there's Expo Router as well. If you want to do React Router style routing on native. I mean, last time I looked at the React Navigation API, it was very similar to the React Router APIs.
Yeah, super
Like
similar.
they had taken a lot of cues from it. So anyway, just a little footnote there. But next version of React Router package, it's you just import everything from React Router, which is really nice.
Um, and then it's not on here, but another thing that I've been doing personally is I've been moving all of the API reference docs, not guides, not tutorials, not discussions, but API reference docs from all of our Markdown stuff over into the source code, which is going to be great when you're actually developing, which is when you want API reference docs. Um, after you're familiar with the project, and it'll just be right there in your editor. And then we're going to auto-generate those docs in the future too. Um, so yeah, it's not on the board here, but that's another thing that we've been doing. Okay, so we talked a little about action functions last time, and React 19 form actions kind of influence this. So we're trying to figure out how to plug the Remix APIs into the new React APIs. It's kind of tricky because like we had this scope of responsibility, and now React has taken like 95% of it. And so it's like, okay, how do you merge these two things? And this is kind of one of those things, but I'm not going to talk about that much today. We talked about it last time. Fog of War, I don't know if we've brought this one up too much. Actually, I have a memory that we have. Um, but this is just our funny term for splitting up the route manifest.
Yeah, Matt calls it
Um,
lazy route loading.
yeah, so today your whole route manifest is in one giant file and it can get really big depending on how you're doing things. Um, we've seen some apps that have literally thousands of routes. I mean, ending up with 1,000 routes, I think they're probably doing something weird, but oh well. Fog of War is how we implemented Remix in the first place, so we're going back to it where we'll split it up and we will lazily load the asset manifest that Vite spits out as links and things show up on the page. We'll go and get anywhere else you might be able to go in the future. Um, and if we don't have it
So
at all, then it just becomes a part of the normal transition to go get it first.
I guess the plan is um to just make that the default behavior, right?
Yeah, that's just yeah. the manifest gets put in scripts right now, and then our transitions read from it to know which JavaScript assets and which loaders to call,
Hmm.
like if it has a loader or a client loader or whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
We're just splitting all that stuff out into smaller pieces, and we'll go to the server and ask for
Pieces of the
whatever future
manifest that you need when
navigations you
you're
might
about
be
to
able to
net.
make.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the limitation last time was that, you know, you click on a link and now, oh, we need to go and fetch the portion of the manifest that applies to the destination so that we, so yeah, it'd basically be you click on a link, go fetch the portion of the manifest that you need, patch the manifest. Now you can prefetch resources and things for the
Hmm.
destination that you're going to, kick off those fetches, data, right?
Yeah,
Um,
we wanted to eliminate that first waterfall where we're like, you know what, let's just put it all in one manifest so we don't have to
yeah,
do that first hop.
yeah. So how are we getting around that this time?
Links are going to automatically prefetch the part of the manifest that they need. They're not going
Oh,
to
that they're
automatically
pointing to,
prefetch. Yeah, yeah. So if a link is pointing to something, it'll go get that chunk of the manifest.
like when the page loads.
Yeah, when they render, and we're going to batch them all together so we only make one request after a transition, right?
Okay, okay.
So
So page renders, bunch of links show up. They all say, "Hey, I'm pointing to page A. I'm pointing to page B."
yeah,
Gather up all of those. Okay, we're going to need all of that stuff in the manifest so that when we navigate, we don't have to go and fetch the manifest at that point in time.
yeah. So then we go and we say, hey, give me, and maybe it's 10 links that I'll point to only two
Yeah, yeah,
URLs,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So
And so we
dedupable.
make one request and get those two bits of the manifest and patch it, and now it's ready to go. Um, but if they're too fast and they click a link, or you're navigating with like the navigate function, we don't have a way to prefetch that.
Hmm.
So we're just going to have the waterfall in those cases. But most of the
I
time,
mean, could also just fall back to page reload, right? Almost like before JavaScript loads, all of your links work, right?
yeah, well,
Excuse me.
it'll just be a part of that async flow. Like, I don't have the manifest yet. All right, I'll get it first.
Yeah,
And
no,
then
I'm just thinking like, gremlins in the network's failing, the network's slow. That's why that's why the request for the manifest failed. I don't know. There's only so much we can do, right? But
yeah, I just mean that it's not. Maybe we're talking about something different. So I'm imagining like you're typing in a
hmm.
search box and you want to
Hmm.
like update the URL, so you're calling navigate.
Hmm.
And so if you're like navigating to a search results page, but the form stays visible in the layout,
Hmm.
if we don't have the manifest, we don't want to do a full page reload and like ruin that
No, I
UX,
was
right?
no, 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 no. Yeah, you're right. Not yeah, in that situation, absolutely not. I was thinking more about link clicks, not so much like typing in a field. You're thinking about like
Yeah.
the autocomplete.
You're saying like we've started prefetching it, but
Started
we haven't
prefetching some
finished and they click
stuff.
the link.
Yeah, we don't have it yet. Just go there, right? Just
Yeah.
just,
Well, yeah. So
just
I
follow
guess
the link. We'll
we'll
load
see when
everything
that.
up that we need when we get there, right? To that destination page.
Yeah. I think our transition code is going to know, oh, hey, I've got some pending manifest. Let's wait for that first.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, either way, I think
Yeah.
will work. But
Yeah, probably.
okay, cool.
Um, so that's coming as soon as we finish the V7 stuff. Um, spit out client loaders actions. I think I've slightly brought this one up. So we have this is something that will help the admin app at Shopify. It's a huge app. Um, and the problem, so we introduced client loaders and spa mode. And what happens is when you click a link or just navigate otherwise, this is related to fog of war a little bit. When you click a link with server rendering, we can just go and call, especially with single fetch, we make run one request and we can call all the loaders in parallel. But at the very same time from the browser, we can be fetching the JavaScript resources for that link as well, right? What are you laughing at? What'd I do? What's wrong? Oh no, you're muted. All right, never mind. So you click a link, we make a fetch to say, hey, go call all the loaders, and then we can also go load assets at the same time in parallel. But with client loaders, you click a link, we have to go get the assets first. And now that we have the assets, we have the client loader, and now we can call the client loader. So we have this waterfall of go get JavaScript assets, now go call client loaders. And so what we're doing is splitting out the client loaders from the client modules. The big problem with having the two-step thing is that in order to call the loader code, it's not only that you have to download the loader, but you're also downloading that whole route module. And that could be really, really big because it's got all of your components and the rest of the UI in there. So we're delaying the speed at which we could call your client loaders to go fetch data first, and we're not parallelizing things. So we're going to split out the client loaders into their own module. And so now when you click a link to a route that has a client loader or a set of routes that have client loaders, we can go get the resources for just the client loaders and go get the resources for the components for that next page in parallel. And the loaders will probably come sooner, and then we can call the loaders here, and then the rest of the assets for the components maybe comes here, and maybe by then we've already fetched the data. So should be able to speed up big pages a lot when you're using a lot of client loaders and actions. Um,
Yeah, no,
it's
sorry
funny how
about
much
my
of, huh?
my little, that was just the joys of working from home.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
I
all
looked
good.
and you were like giggling. I'm like, oh, did I
Yeah,
say
no.
something wrong?
No, no, you're all good.
Um,
Some people love, love, love working from home. They're just like, oh, it's so great. I get to like see everybody. And I'm just like, I don't want to see anybody. Like when I'm working, I don't I love these people, but I don't want to like, and it's just like anyway.
I
I think it's just how my brain works. Like when I load a problem into my brain, it's like, okay,
yeah.
I need to focus on this thing. I need to like consider this thing. I need to think about it. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, oh, there it goes. There it goes. All the
Yep.
plates just fell. They're shattered
All
on the
comes
floor.
crumbling down.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So like
Um,
I don't want to see anybody.
I think
Anyway.
I've told you this before. When like, I've been working from home for a long time, and we had to make a rule, a two-way rule, that if I'm in my office and the door is closed, you have to pretend like I'm at work at an office 30 minutes away.
Yeah, that was my bad. The door was open.
And
I didn't close the door.
but it goes the other way too. If I'm in the kitchen with my laptop open and I'm working and someone starts talking to me, I can't get all frustrated.
Totally.
Uh,
Yeah,
Hey,
totally.
you're talking to me and I got all the plates set up. It's like, no, no,
You're
no. If you're gonna
you're
work,
not in
go in
your
the office.
space. You're not in your space. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I
No,
do
I
daydream
need to
sometimes
I need
about
to
us having a remix office. That would have been really fun.
I've been telling you that for years, and every time I say it, you're like, "No, man, I love working from home."
Well, you're not gonna move to Utah.
Yeah.
Elisa wants to move to San Diego, so maybe that'll happen one day.
It'd be sweet though, right? I'm picturing like big like garage doors on one side so we can just like open up the whole wall and just like have the nice, if it's a nice day or something, just have like the nice,
Yep.
fresh air coming in and the sunlight and everything. It'd be sweet.
Build a little quarter pipe out there,
Yeah, dude. So I can break my
break our
neck.
collarbones.
Michael's now paralyzed, but hey, we're gonna do the live stream anyway. His mouth still
Uh,
works.
but now we have serendipitous collaboration. All right, so this is going to be cool. These two things are great. These kind of I categorize these when we're talking about them as infinite scale, right? Fog of war, you can have 8 million routes, and it's not going to affect the weight of an initial page load. Um, Split out client loaders, same thing. You can have gigantic render trees, which you want to avoid anyway, but they happen. And now we're not going to have to wait for all of that in order to call your client loaders. All right, middleware. We can do middleware now. Michael and I were just looking at this one. It's out of date, so I need to go update this. Michael and I have worked on a middleware API that we like, that we want to implement here. So I need to update this thing. So I won't go into too many details about it here. But last time that we were about to begin work on this, two things got in the way. The middleware we were imagining we're not as useful as we wanted them to be without single fetch.
Yeah, that was the big one.
Um, yeah, that's the big one because and it was so what's bizarre about the way Remix works today before single fetch is that it is single fetch for documents. Like you ask for one document and our middleware would be very effective for the document request.
Yeah, so on the surface it seems like, oh, couldn't it already work fine? Well, yeah,
Yeah, no,
on that initial request, yeah.
yep. And then you get into the client requests on navigations where we're just making like 3, 4 fetches for each route. And now the middleware can't share a call stack on the same server, which makes middleware less useful across routes. So now that we got single fetch done, we can make the kind of middleware that we want. Um, and then the second thing that got in our way was we have a server context API or a middleware context, whatever you want to call it. Um, and we had this question of like, oh, okay, because we were saying something like, hey, we're going to export middleware for this route, right? And then we're going to export context for this thing. And we're like, uh-oh, which one do we call first? Um, I guess it would be, I need something like that. Oh, no, no, I need const. Sorry, I forgot. Um, and we're like, which one do we call? And it was like, well, the order of these, really, there's no like good decision here.
No,
Um,
yeah, it's just a race.
and so we figured out a better context API. We don't have it spec'd out in a proposal, but that's another thing I need to do. Man, we've had conferences. Speaking of
Yeah, yeah,
conferences
yeah.
and traveling and stuff, um,
Yeah, but it's just based on the React context API, right?
which is based on the broadcast AP, React broadcast API.
It's all
Uh,
just there's turtles all the way down.
all the way down. And I'm wearing the sweatpants because I called it sweatpants at first, right? And I'm actually wearing those sweatpants right now. Remember that? You know, we can't call it sweatpants. We got to call it something else. It was these.
Huh. I'm straining to remember. I do remember something about sweatpants.
I think it's still on my GitHub. Let's see.
Ryan Florence sweatpants.
Oh, maybe I put like a JS on it.
Classic 404 page. Jedi. I
See
wonder
if
if they
Google
had that
knows.
404 page.
Yeah.
Sweatpants JS. There it is.
Wait, R Mormon. Who's this? R Morman. I wonder if he's
Forked
Mormon.
from Ryan Florence app
Oh, I just had a
JSX.
gist. Yeah, sweatpants.
There it is.
State provider. Oh my gosh, I did a reducer. What is wrong with me?
Class extends React component. Look at that.
That's beautiful. Anyway, um, yeah, so we worked out the so it's gonna be something like this, right? Let's just make like a logger middleware, and you're gonna get the request in here, and then you're gonna say oh, and you're gonna get a next in here, or maybe it's the second argument. I can't remember. We got to go
Yeah, I think
spec
it's
it
the
out
second
again.
argument.
And then so you're going to say response equals await next, and then you're going to log, yeah, sure, what that URL was, and then you can return the response or not return anything, and we know internally what's going on, but we'll just do it like that. Now, if you wanted some sort of context, it's gonna, well, you know, I'll spec it out later, and we can talk about it another time. But it works. It works. Well, whatever. Let's do it here. So you're gonna get a context thing here, and then in some other module somewhere, you're gonna have um, DB context or something like that, right?
Yeah, and you're gonna pass it in through your top level. Sorry, I'll sorry, keep going. Um,
And now you got your DB, and this thing you're gonna say what
yeah,
kind of crap you want to put in there. Cool
yeah,
DB type.
yeah, yeah. So this is
Uh,
this is where it's kind of like the context.get is kind of like your use context hook.
yeah. No, it's just used now.
Yeah, use.
So these are kind of the same context get and use, but we're not in a component, right? This is outside of React. So it's kind of our own little hook here, context get. And somebody else in some other thing, DB content or DB middleware or something, is going to go first, and it's going to say, oh, I got stuff rattling.
Yeah, this is your context provider.
Yeah, this is your provider context, and then yeah, some new cool DB. Um,
Yeah.
and so that one can say, hey, I'm just going to make one of these for everybody, and you can do stuff like you could put like a user on there for everybody, right? Context.set. I want like a user context, and like people are always like, oh, I want to fetch the user once from wherever, and then have all my loaders have access to it. So this isn't an API for just middleware, but you'll be able to do this for loaders and stuff too. And so like now you can kind of see why the middleware, why single fetch is important here. Because without single fetch, you're going to think, oh, I'm only fetching the user once, but you fetched it 3 or 4 times. So single fetch really gives you a lot more control of not just network chatter from your app in the browser, but also gives you control of operations on the back end, lets you optimize those better.
So then
And then
that get right there that you had highlighted, that context.get will actually throw. So
yeah,
you
if
get,
nothing's in there.
yes, you get safety if nothing's in there.
And this get understands, see, we got the type over here, right? So this DB context understands types built into it. When you set here, this set is going to look at the type here and then look at this value and yell at you. You'll get red squigglies if this is wrong. And then down here, you'll get the type information out of it correctly. Um, and you don't have to do like a if no DB throw or something. We'll just do that for you. And it'll be like, hey, this is a bad, that's a, I guess, what is that? A 50, like service unavailable. What is that one? 503? Bad gateway?
502, I think, is bad gateway.
502. But yeah, we'll throw if you try to get a context that doesn't exist. And if you don't want something to blow up on you, then you can put like a default one in here so
Yeah.
that we don't ever throw on you, but you better have something good in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that context, this new context API or this old context API used in a new spot solves the question of like who goes first, the route middleware or route context. Um, makes your loaders and actions more powerful, makes middleware more viable or more useful too. So yeah, so that'll be, so you could have these two middleware and then in your route module, let's say export middleware, and you can be like, I want a DB middleware and I want a logger. Um, and now this one's going to set a DB on that context, and this one can read it.
Gonna grab
And
it.
then maybe you
Yeah.
write to that database.
There was a question in the chat about async local storage.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
just wanted to adjust that real quick. So Sergio already gave the right answer, which is Remix. The Remix has always been multi JavaScript runtime, right? We every time, and I think that decision has really paid off in spades for us, right? Every time there's a
Yeah.
new JavaScript, it's like, oh, there's Winter.js. Oh, here's Bun. Here's Cloudflare workers. Here's
I got it running
Fastly.
in that new
You know,
AWS one that's like super minimal.
yeah. So that decision, I think, has really paid a ton of dividends for us. We are JavaScript server runtime agnostic, which means you can run your Remix app anywhere very, very quickly and very easily. So the fact that async local storage is not everywhere and it's mostly on Node, although I think there's a good chance, like it's such a good idea, I think there's a good chance that it will eventually be everywhere.
It's
Um,
on it's Cloudflare, you can enable it if you're using the worker.js directory, which I don't think they really have docs for that yet.
yeah. So
But yeah,
like
when it's in those two
yeah,
places, I'm like super happy.
yeah, they'll all get there eventually. But I think starting with like a very explicit API, because the async local storage is very implicit, right? It's like stuff kind of just comes out of, you just import stuff and then it's just magically available. Import cookies from Next is kind of how they do it. I think I'd rather start with an explicit API and then once async local storage shows up everywhere, like we can we can switch to this sort of implicit API. And then, but we'll have the underlying sort of explicit API for anybody who can't rely on async local storage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me type a little bit of code for anyone who's not following along. So
Yeah, sorry, I just said
imagine
a whole bunch of stuff that assumes a whole lot of understanding of this.
imagine this. Import request from React Router, and then you wouldn't need this here. And you actually wouldn't need this context either. These two things, async local storage could let you write your code this way, which is really nice because now you can have a bunch of functions that can just import from React Router and you don't have to wire it all together in your code. And the reason I love it is it just reminds me of old PHP where you just got that request and you got that session and like those were so nice. There's a current request happening, give me access to it. Um, but yeah, for now, like
I mean,
Michael's
why not just
saying,
go all the way and make true global variables in that case?
it's essentially what they are. Yeah. Yeah.
But like
Well,
you,
well, global variables are different because if two requests are being processed at the same time, they're going to accidentally share scope. So async local storage is essentially scoped globals for an individual
scope globals.
request, right?
Yeah, yeah. Which means they're not really globals.
Not quite, but yeah,
Yeah,
globals
yeah,
would really break things. So we'll
yeah.
keep this. But what I wanted to add to that was your context APIs and your middleware can absolutely use async local storage, right? Um,
Yeah, if you don't care about it running or being portable.
yeah, exactly. If your app runs on Node, you can use it,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you could create a batching and caching function and all sorts of stuff
totally,
with like data loader or whatever else.
totally.
Okay, so yeah, so this is what we'll end up looking like. And now we don't have to worry about the order with context, and we can have more useful middleware because of single fetch. Um, the question remains, what about client middleware? Uh, refresh, jot, or whatever, jot token. Um, this will be super useful. I think we'll probably
Jot
end up
web
here
token.
unless people convince us otherwise. So these will run in loader. So this kind of follows, right? We got like export function loader, and we've got client loader. So this is kind of this is the path we're already on. So if we got middleware, then that's going to run before your loaders. If you got client loaders, that's going to run before your client loaders. So this would be super cool for spas, especially. Um, you can just your loaders and your actions are the things that need that auth token. And now you can really easily just be like, all right, stick this at the top of the root route or refresh the jot token. I keep saying token at the end. I just hate the word jot. It just doesn't sound right.
Let's call it a JavaScript
JWT,
or JSON web token.
JavaScript. Anyway,
JavaScript serialized object notation web token.
there we go. Refresh JavaScript object notation yes. um,
JavaScript serialized object. That's
yeah,
funny.
so that'll be pretty cool. And I guess that these contexts they really have nothing to do with the server, so you could be able to use this create context from React Router in a client middleware too, which will be also useful. And browsers don't have async local storage, so won't be able to do that, which apparently is why we don't have async client components in React yet, because they need async local storage so that they can patch, date, and fetch, and who knows what else they need to do.
So I wanted to back up and go all the way up to the top and say, how does your like what if you want to start with some initial context? I guess we've still got get load context, right?
From your server, like from Express.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
or if you just wanted, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah,
it's so
yeah. Yeah.
that's the bridge from your server to Remix. But if all you're
Yeah.
doing is like setting
Yeah.
up, I think a lot of things that people are doing in Express middleware in their Remix apps, they can probably move over into Remix with this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just move it into a remix middleware. It just
Yeah,
means
but
you're
if
gonna
they
have to
have like
like,
a hybrid Express
yeah,
app,
exactly.
they'll still want that get load context.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a bunch of really, really useful Express middleware out there. that,
Yeah.
you don't want to have to make all of that stuff into Remix middleware. I mean, you could, I guess. We could have Remix, like winter CG versions, right? Fetch versions of
Yeah.
all of the classic Express middleware that you use.
Yeah. I
Um,
think people will do that too. It'll be really cool.
yeah, yeah.
Um, hang on, just getting a message. Okay. Yeah, cool. I'm really excited about this. This is something that
Yeah, it'll be cool.
we kind of punted on this early in the life of Remix, where it was like, they got their own server anyway. Those servers have middleware.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a little rough to do. It works, but it's a little rough. So this is going to be really nice. Um, woo, long road to get there. Build rendering, we covered that last time. Um, After spa mode, we already do SSG for part of spa mode, so now all we need is to come up with an API for you to give us URLs, and then we can just pre-build those if you want, throw them in your public directory, and away you go. It'll be like 10 lines of code for us to implement
Yeah.
SSG now. Um,
Yeah, I love that. I love that thought. Your
yeah, I'm
server
gonna just,
is your server is your static site generator.
I think it's just gonna be this, just a
But
thing on your,
I thought I didn't need a server if I have a static site. Well, you start with
I
a
think it's just
server and
gonna
the
be
static
something
site
like
becomes a whole
this.
lot easier.
Just give us a bunch of URLs, a little bit like Gatsby Node JS. Um, in
Except
the
Gatsby started at the wrong end.
yeah, yeah.
They're like, we're going to start with a static server. That's where Next started too. We're going to start with static rendering of all of your stuff. And then we're going to go backwards and try and make a server, a really capable server. So much easier when you're going the other way.
Um, yeah, and so we're pretty sure the API is just going to look like this for now, unless we think of some issue with this. But in the Vite plugin, you can give us an async pre-render hook, and we'll call that during the build. After we've made everything, we'll make your server build, and then we'll say, hey, give me some URLs, and so you can go do whatever work you need to in here. Go fetch a bunch of blog posts from Sanity or whatever, right? Do async work, and then give us a list of URLs, and and then we'll throw a bunch of requests at your server bundle. So it's the same code path as a request coming into a server. We just our server adapters, like the Express adapter, it just says, "Oh, here comes a request. It's a Express request. Change it to a web fetch request. Now send it at your server build." And here we're saying, "Oh, it's part of the bundling process. Here's your handler. Give me the URL. We'll throw that. We'll make a request and send it there." So your loaders will get called in this phase. So we don't need like a new hook, like a get static loader or anything like that. It's just your normal loader. Um, so pretty should be pretty cool and really easy for us to do.
Yeah, kick out a couple of pages and
Yeah,
the rest of the static asset flow is the same as it's always been. Upload your public folder to the CDN somewhere and or put an
away you
express
go.
static in front of it and off you go.
And
Static, baby.
that's all I have to say about that.
Put it on GitHub pages. Get yourself a free website. All right, cool. Well, it sounds like we can wrap up this one a little bit early then. We've
I
talked
think so.
about all of the stuff that we've got planned on the road. We've even hinted a little bit at what you can expect to hear from us next week at ReactConf. And yeah, look forward to React Router v7 and middleware. Middleware is going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Big missing feature. If we could do it all over again, well, Michael, you know exactly how I would want to do it if we started from scratch.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, cool. Thanks for joining us. Looking in the chat, there's some questions about like app load context and the types and all that.
Yeah, we talked about
Um,
that.
Yeah, we want to make those types as good as possible, and they aren't great with get load context at the moment. So we'll try to clean all that stuff up at the same time. Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thanks for
everybody.
joining us, everybody. See you next time.